The third printing company we'll talk about is one called Gibbs and Bamforth. Now, this company was able to pass the national interest test. Just going to move on. Here's Gibbs and Bamforth. They're actually right down the far left-hand corner, the very end of this sort of structure in the middle of the photograph. It's the best shot we could find of them. Its business had three main lines: local newspaper production, and they published the weekly Herts Advertiser, who had a 9,000 print run in 1916. They did book printing and religious tracts, and also the transactions of our St Albans History Society, which has been around for a long time. And they also did cardboard box production. The number of employees in 1914 is not clear at all. They struggled in front of the Tribunal to keep the second two lines of business running. The proprietor, Mr. A.E. Gibbs, threatened to close down the cardboard box section late in 1916, as he didn't have the staff to keep it running. And it looks as if he did, because there is no evidence that that bit of business survived the war. The newspaper business is the interesting bit. Like Smiths and Dangerfield, Gibbs failed to justify the national test for his general print business. They lost many of their compositors by the end of the war. They went from 11 at the beginning of the war down to 3 by the end. And at one point, they were saying it was almost impossible to produce the newspaper. Paper shortages and restrictions also caused problems, and they twice had to increase the price of the Herts Advertiser. However, in July 1917, the Herts Advertiser reported that the Tribunal had received official guidance to maintain, and I quote, the efficiency of newspapers. And Ernest Gape, our military representative, said that military representatives had been told that it, in quote, was not in the interests of the country to close weekly papers. It's not really surprising. I mean, picking up the point that, Jim McDermott was saying, newspapers provided important information to the community. They were actually probably the most important channel of communication for people in those days. We tend to forget that, I think, nowadays. And I think we've again touched on it. Again, they were useful for propaganda purposes. So it's somewhat surprising to me that it sort of took some time to sort of identify that they should be. They were in the interest. And interestingly, there is actually some evidence that the Herts Advertiser increased its circulation during the war. We think it's possibly by at least 15%. And one of the factors of that, we believe, is that a lot of people were buying second copies to send to soldiers and other soldiers out in the front, because the soldiers wanted to know what was happening. It was our paper carried very, very big stories about all local men who were serving in the army. You have 2 sort of full pages probably sometimes, and obviously soldiers used that to see what had happened to their friends, their mates, their family.